Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Alzheimer's Association's Facebook Live session here at the end of September. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Edgerly, Executive Director for the Alzheimer's Association here in Northern California and Northern Nevada. Welcome from wherever you are. And it is my pleasure to introduce our special guest for this Facebook Live session, one of my favorite people, Francie Newfield. Welcome, Francie.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here.
We're so glad you're here. So Francie, tell us a little bit, how did you get involved with the Alzheimer's Association?
Well, I've been involved for a long time, probably about 26 years, because I recall being involved in our very first Santa Cruz walk, and this year is our 26th.
Wow.
Yeah, I first actually became interested in Alzheimer's and all the issues related to it through my career as a social worker, even before I eventually had family experience. And I worked for a county social service agency in adult services, and I met so many families who were creatively dealing with this disease. It was generally, either an elderly man taking care of his wife or a wife taking care of her husband. And I was just so impressed by how dedicated, how clever, how resourceful people were in trying to make their lives work, given this, really challenging disease. And that was at a time, where there was a huge stigma. It was really hard for people to feel like they were understood. So I had a friend here in Santa Cruz who was already involved with our local Alzheimer's small chapter at that time, and she invited me to get involved and to help on recruiting teams for walk. That was how I first got involved.
Wow, I didn't realize that you started with walk. Yeah. For those of you who don't know Francie, I mean, she does it all as a volunteer. Francie's been active in public policy and has been very active in care and support. She's been on our board. She's one of our top fundraisers for the walk. She's been involved in everything. And truly, Francie, you're one of the amazing volunteers that makes the Alzheimer's Association what we are.
Oh, well, thank you. It's so rewarding to me. I mean, the work itself, but the wonderful people that I've worked with, our local volunteers, our walk committee, the staff we have down here in the Central Coast region, and certainly when I was on the board for 6 years with you and all the amazing board members, it's an incredible organization. I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Wonderful. Well, we're so thrilled to have you involved.
Thank you.
So what do we have to talk about? Well, first thing we want to talk about is acknowledging the challenging times that we're facing. And Francie, living in, the Santa Cruz area, of course, boy, Santa Cruz and the communities around Santa Cruz have had a tough time, but it hasn't stopped there. In Northern California, it's been really difficult with all the fires. I know we've all been struggling with that, with the smoke, with the air quality, and that's on top of a pandemic and the economic and the social challenges. It just feels like there's a lot going on. For people with Alzheimer's, it's even more so. I think of all these families that we work with, that we support, where on a good day, it could be really challenging to face Alzheimer's, to face life on a daily basis and some of the challenges we see there. And you add this on top, and it's just been a really difficult few months. And so we wanted to encourage all of you to share this information. You yourself may not need to call the helpline, or maybe you do. Maybe you just need to be able to talk through a problem and be able to know that there's someone at the other end who understands what you're going through. But if you don't need that, you may know someone who does need it. And I know, as a former caregiver for my mom, it was so helpful just to be able to say, am I missing anything here? I mean, am I doing the right thing by helping my mom in this way? Or how can I communicate better? And I will tell you, even with all the years of experience I had, I would find myself saying things, and part of me was like, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? You know you shouldn't be saying that to your mom right now. And yet, even knowing all the things I know, sometimes you do it. And so to be able to talk with someone who understands, who says, yeah, I've been there too. Do you know what I'm talking about, Francie? Have you ever?
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely. And, one of the things that I do is facilitate a support group for family caregivers. And so many of them have just raved about the helpline. I mean, literally, they call in the middle of the night. They've called on Christmas Day. One woman I'll never forget, she said, I was a puddle when I called. And the person at the other end just helped me get it together and move
piece it
on.
piece it
Mhm.
back together. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you've heard that too, because this is 24/7 in multiple languages, in Spanish and Chinese. So please don't hesitate to reach out. That is why we are there, and we have a lot of work to do to make sure that families are supported through this. And we definitely invite all of you to share that information. Now, I also wanted to share with you some good news in public policy. We've been working hard behind the scenes on lots of different things that are affecting the lives of those living with Alzheimer's and their care partners. Here are some of our amazing early stage spokespeople. We have Chris, we have Pam, we have Stephen, all of whom have served on the board or are actively serving on the board of the Alzheimer's Association. And they get up and they tell their story. In this case, this is in the state capitol for Advocacy Day. And they tell our representatives what they need, because we need to make sure that the voice of people living with different types of dementia are represented in our capital in California, in Nevada, and of course in Washington, D.C. So one of the things that's been happening that you may not have heard about is that we actually have been serving on the governor's Alzheimer's task force and the master plan for aging. And both of these groups have been winding up. Now, they're very important groups because they weigh in with the governor around the needs and the challenges that people living with different types of dementia are facing. We're very excited to see the products that are going to be coming out of those two groups, and we hope that it will make a difference in the quality of life for all Californians facing dementia, both today and then in the future. So stay tuned, because you're going to hear more about that. But I'm very proud of our volunteers who served on those work groups, and also to Susan Damaris, our public policy director, who was there as well. So I'm very proud that the Alzheimer's Association is at the table, and we are sharing your voices all the way up to the governor. The other good news I have is that we've been working on new legislation, and this was called, it's a bit of a mouthful, Promoting Alzheimer's Awareness to Prevent Elder Abuse. That was the act. And it was really around promoting training for elder abuse, because we know that people living with dementia are vulnerable. They're vulnerable to being taken advantage of. They're vulnerable to emotional abuse, physical abuse, and neglect. Neglect is very common, unfortunately. And so this legislation would allow for and really put in place training and making sure that staff, police, and other individuals working in government and other agencies are trained and able to recognize and address elder abuse. And Francie, this is right up your alley, right?
Well,
Your
yes,
background.
I'd love to comment here.
Please, yeah.
During my career, I served as the director for adult long-term care programs here in Santa Cruz County, and Adult Protective Services was one of the programs that I was responsible for. And, as you well know, there are so many heartbreaking stories of people who are purposefully taken advantage of by caregivers, by family members, not to mention those who, self-neglect because they don't have the capacity to provide proper care for themselves. But many counties have had these elder abuse task forces, particularly around financial abuse. And because, there has been support at county and state levels for increasing well, punishments, legislation, getting the county district attorneys involved, training social workers. And the people who are negatively impacted become so embarrassed about what's happened, and they don't want their families to know,
Right.
Because they're afraid that more of their independence will be taken away from them. So I think it's so important for law enforcement and all levels of the justice system to be made aware, so that there will be more means to prevent and detect. Just like with our diagnosis, detecting and getting involved early can save people's health. It can save the money that they need to take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. And it just increases public awareness.
And actually, those two things go together, don't they? Because so often people don't know that they're dealing with dementia, and the person can get into financial difficulties. So one thing for our viewers, and welcome to our Facebook Live. I'm Elizabeth Edgerly, Executive Director for the Alzheimer's Association, here with our fabulous volunteer, Francie Newfield. And we're just talking about elder abuse and preventing elder abuse. One thing that not everybody realizes is sometimes one of the first signs that someone is starting to have difficulties that will lead to dementia is falling victim to scams or having difficulty with finances. And I don't know about you, but I think every other day I get a call from the fake Chinese government telling me that I owe taxes. And previously it was the fake IRS calling me that they were going to put me in jail. And at the time, I remember, especially with the IRS calls, because I figured that the ones in Chinese aren't really for me, but when they're in English and they're saying, this is the IRS and we're going to put you in jail, even though I know it's fake, I still did a double take and thought, that can't be real, right? And so I did a little research, and of course it's not. But imagine if you're a little confused and if you're not sure. And so that is a hugely successful scam. And it is probably a lot of our people, a lot of our constituents. And so be on the lookout for your loved ones, your friends. If you see that they're giving away lots of money or they're having financial issues, it could be one of the first signs.
Absolutely. The sweepstakes scams are big things too. And especially now, because you have these friendly people calling isolated elderly people at home, being really warm and encouraging and telling them, that they've earned, that they've been awarded all this money, and all they have to do is go to the bank.
$5,000.
Yeah. I've witnessed that happening. With people recently.
And you made a great point about people being embarrassed, because I've fallen victim, not to any of these scams, but in my lifetime, I remember doing something, I was mortified. I was so embarrassed. And so it's something that anybody can make a bad decision, fall victim to a scam. And so we want to be on the lookout for that. So thanks for commenting and sharing your experience. The other policy efforts we're focused on are related here in the state of California to looking at state budgets. So with all of the challenges that we're facing in the state with the budget, there were proposed eliminations of some key programs that individuals with dementia use. And so we fought hard, and we were very proud to emerge relatively successful in preserving some of these programs that are really important. We're still working on this. This is probably a never-ending struggle that we're going to face, but that's a key part of the work of the association, is to make sure that the programs and services are preserved for individuals facing dementia. The other piece is focused on COVID. And you may have read, Francie and I were just talking before our session started, about the challenges that loved ones, you can see in this photo, the lack of visitation ability for loved ones for months has been incredibly challenging, and I would describe it as devastating to the health and well-being of individuals with dementia living in long-term care settings. If they didn't maybe get COVID, but they are dying of loneliness, isolation, physical decline, and emotional and mental decline. And I don't know if you feel this way, but I know I feel like I am not at my best in social isolation, and I'm able to go out. And so imagine what it would be like to be stuck in the same room all day, every day for months with no visitation. And that's what we are looking at here. Francie, do you want to share a bit? I know we've got some updates that visitation is going to be starting again.
Yes, we just saw announcements from the State Department of Health that there are new guidelines around allowing visits, that they will, be handled. I don't know all the details, but obviously, precautions are going to be taken. But hopefully, they won't be through the windows like you see on this slide here, and that more congregate activities within facilities are going to be allowed. I just also saw a note from one of the companies that operates assisted living here that incorporates memory care, and they are now going to be allowing visits and congregate dining, which is so important. People, if you're eating alone in your room, you don't eat as much. It's just like when people are alone at home, they don't eat as well or as much. And so, we're seeing people feel
maybe not as healthy. I think I might be eating more.
Well, that's true for us. That's because we can go out and shop.
Yeah. No, it's that social contact. It's like part of, it's the spark of life, isn't it? Well, I want to invite folks to check out our website at allsimpact.org. And we definitely want to share with you updates on this. And I want you to know that this work is taking place. If you would like to get involved, we sure could use your help. We need as many voices speaking up. I described it as shout from the mountaintops to make sure that we can be there to protect the rights of all people living with dementia. We want them to be safe, and we want them to be healthy and well as well. So that's a struggle right now, clearly. Well, now we're going to change gears. I'm going to put on my walk uniform. Every Saturday that we have a walk, I end up wearing these. Now, walk is a little different this year, right? We're talking about it as walk is everywhere. So what does that even mean? Well, it means that we are not gathering in person in the way we would normally gather. We do not want large groups of people walking hand in hand, hugging and all that good stuff. Maybe next year we'll do that. But instead, we're going to do it in a safe way. And you can see Margot Reese on our slide here. She did the walk in Modesto with her two dogs, and I love the tutu. So what we're doing is we're each walking, but in our own neighborhood safely with groups of people that we are already with. So we're not encouraging folks to get all their friends and family together if they're not normally together. And we want to go outside, keep distant, wear masks, all that good stuff. And we have 4 walks coming up. This weekend, we've got Fresno, Redding, Sacramento, and Santa Cruz. And the following weekend, we have Merced. We still have a long road ahead of us to get to even approach where we were last year, let alone what our goal was. So we're doing everything we can, and every donation helps. We want you to keep it up. Those of you who are doing it, we have some wonderful examples here. We have Fallon in this picture. Fallon does the, I believe, Sacramento walk, and she collects pennies, and those pennies add up. I know we have a little bit of a coin shortage, so maybe dollars might be a better option this year, but we love the involvement of young, amazing individuals like Fallon, and so that's one thing. Fundraising on Facebook has to be one of the best ways. I know for me, I'll post it on Facebook, tell my story. So you want to tell your story. People want to know why you're doing it, not just the generic, but say, I lost my mom last year and this matters to me. Wear your walk shirt. I see Francie's in her walk shirt. I've got my walk shirt. She's got a Grand Champions t-shirt on there, so she's got an extra special one. Tell your story. Let people know. You will be surprised to find out how many people have been affected. And it's only by sharing your story. The other thing I want to say, and Francie, you tell me what you think about this, but I think that sometimes we're afraid to put it out there because, we think people don't want you to ask. It's not a good time. And so we just sort of say no for people. I have been surprised that people I didn't intend to ask, but did. I've done that before. I sent an email to someone who I would not have asked, and they respond and donate and say, I just lost my mom to Alzheimer's. Have you had that happen?
Absolutely. And a lot of people on my team use Facebook for fundraising. But it's true, you hardly come across anybody anymore who hasn't been touched in some way by Alzheimer's or another dementia.
Yeah.
And the more you talk with people, the more you find this out. And they're more than happy to make a donation. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's surprisingly large, to help make things better in the future so that other families don't have to experience what they have. And if in the meantime, to provide support that families so badly need.
And it's such it's really, for me, it makes me feel better that I'm doing something. I don't know if it helps you that way, but I want to do everything I can to change this, because I don't want to get Alzheimer's, and I don't want my son and future grandchildren. So that's what it's going for. Now, you're a creative fundraiser. You've got some stuff going on. What are you doing this year?
Well, the quilt that's displayed on here, this was made by members of my team and some friends of ours.
Wow.
In the past, we've done other things where we could have an open house at our office, things that we can't do this year. So we put together this quilt that has representation of the flowers that we use in our promise ceremony, which I know we're going to talk about in a little while. Mm-hmm. And then just other ideas that came to people's minds. Some are very simple. Look, we ended up with 4 hearts on there. And we are having a silent auction in Santa Cruz that a number of people are participating in. Arlene, who's our committee chair, is going to be doing what they call, that new cooking device that does fast cooking.
Instant Pot?
Instant Pot. She's raffling off, or not raffling off, but she's auctioning a series of classes with her.
I could use that.
Yeah, we have.
I have an Instant Pot.
Oh, well, you should definitely.
I may have to go for that. Yes.
Yeah, we have some post-COVID vacations. There's a vacation home in Cape Cod.
Oh, wow.
Condo on Kauai. There's a hotel in Las Vegas. There's some wineries. There's some other gifts. There's a handful of really, really neat things.
Great. So we should have in our comments, we'll be posting this information and we'll be sharing it with folks so you can check this out, because what a wonderful way to get a twofer out of it. You bid on something, you get to benefit from that, but that money will also go to support the work of the Alzheimer's Association through the walk. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that. I noticed we also have another suggestion here about using the Walk app. So this year, that Walk app is really important. If you gather a check from someone, which I have, you actually can deposit it using your phone. It will go into your Walk records, and it will be cashed that way, and it will be deposited and count towards your team. So the Walk app is important for that, and it also makes Walk Day fun because there's things that are going to pop up for you. So definitely download the Walk app.
I have found that so helpful, Elizabeth.
Did you? Oh, good.
I have received a number of checks. And before, we had to send them out of town.
Yeah.
It would take weeks for them to show up because they were so busy at that center. And now, in 2 minutes, it's reflected. So it's instant gratification for the money that you've raised.
Yeah, I have to do it. I haven't done it yet, but I have a check ready. All right. I am taking off my readers and I'm putting on The Future Looks Bright in Fresno sunglasses. So first off, we're very excited for Fresno. We love Fresno, and we are so grateful and proud of the Educators Erasing Alzheimer's team, our top team so far in Fresno. And our top fundraiser there is Laurel Ashlock. Laurel, you're amazing. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. And I want to do a special shout out to our committee leaders, Nicola and Zach. We are so grateful to our volunteers, and these two leaders have stepped up at a time when, boy, we sure do need it. And so we're grateful to both of them and the entire committee and to everyone participating. We wish you all the best in Fresno. Yay, go team. And you can see the beautiful promise flowers there. We will be doing drive-by promise gardens this year. And when we get to Santa Cruz, Francie's going to give us a little preview of some of the stories that we'll hear in Santa Cruz at their walk. But the next walk I'm going to highlight is Redding. Redding is such a beautiful community, and they have one of the most beautiful walks anywhere in the country. And this year it's going to be in every neighborhood, but we are so grateful to them for their work. And in particular, our top team, good old Phil. I would love to be able to cheer you all on in person. You are our heroes. You're doing amazing things, and we are so grateful to your team in Redding. And special thank you to Tony Reginato. Thank you for being our top individual fundraiser. And we also want to thank our committee leader, Kelly Valish. Kelly, thank you so much for being our fearless leader in Redding. And we wish you all the best in your walk on Saturday. Next is Sacramento. Sacramento has been burning things up, this trail before them, and Team Snail is not to be stopped. As you can see, Tom Rush takes his work very seriously on the walk. I love Tom. Tom, I follow on Facebook, and I love seeing you going door to door very safely in local towns, putting up walk signs and recruiting sponsors. And look at Tom's truck. Team Snail has the most stylish ride of any team, and they're huge. What an amazing team. So thank you to Team Snail. You inspire all of us. And Tom, you in particular, will be thinking of you on Saturday and thinking about your wife and all that has happened for you in this last year. And we are so grateful to you. We'll be walking in her memory, and I will be thinking of you and the whole team this weekend. And special thanks to our committee leaders, Mark White, our committee chair, and Scott Okamoto. You guys are awesome. We love Sacramento, and we wish you all the best. Go team. And Francie's walk, Santa Cruz, one of the top walks historically. It's really been amazing. It's a smaller community, but big results. Amazing group. And our top team for several years actually is Cure Be Found. Cure Be Found with Nancy Rader and team captain Julie Grebmeyer. You can see Nancy and her husband Bob pictured here, but we are so grateful to you, your team, and the entire Santa Cruz community for their support of the walk. And thank you to our committee chair, Arlene Roberg. Really, Francie, you mentioned that you guys are all ready for the program on Saturday. What do you have for us?
Well, I wanted to mention something about the promise ceremony, because that's such a moving event for everybody who has attended a walk. You know, that's when we honor all levels of people who are involved with our efforts. And so I just want to share a couple stories real briefly. We start with the orange flower, acknowledging someone who's really dedicated to the cause, who's a fantastic volunteer. And this year, we acknowledged Effie Chen, who came in such an unusual way to this work. She was involved in a head-on automobile accident a couple of years ago. Turns out the other driver had Alzheimer's disease. And Effie decided she had to make something positive come out of that experience. So she sought out the organization, and she's been a member of our walk planning committee for a number of years, and she does a lot of our marketing.
Wow.
Our yellow flower representing a caregiver. This year we honored Stella Sexsmith to be the representative of all the family caregivers who take on such extreme responsibilities and change their lives essentially. Stella is also kind of different in this way. She has a half sister who's 18 years older than she is. They had different fathers, so they never really grew up together. But her sister is in a care facility in New York, and Stella worked with APS, across the country all of last year, closing up her apartment, making sure she was in a safe setting, getting an out-of-town lawyer so that everything could be done legitimately. And she continues to stay in touch with her sister in the facility. The purple flower, Elizabeth and I were just talking about this. This is perhaps one of the most moving, because each year there are a whole bunch of people that carry the purple flower for the first time, meaning that they have lost someone either recently or long ago in the past, like myself. But when you go from carrying a yellow flower to a purple flower, it's hugely significant.
Yeah.
And we had another actually member of our committee who's been very active, and she lost her dad this last year. She also had been a caregiver, and now she's carrying the purple flower for the first time. So we know what it feels like.
It's heart-wrenching. And I know to all of you who are online and who've gone through that or who will go through that, our hearts go out to you, and we are in this together. This is why we do this, is we want to change it so that you don't have to pick up a purple flower, and that we can get to the point where, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't even have any blue flowers to carry for people who are newly diagnosed? But
that's right. That's right. So the blue flower, usually we have perhaps somebody in early stages who can come up and speak on their own. But this year, since we're doing it differently, we have a wonderful couple. They've been married 68 years. They just had their anniversary this past week.
wow.
And Stephen and his wife Betty have been sweethearts all these years. Betty is living in a small care facility right now. She was awarded Teacher of the Year in New York State and I think it was 1987. Her name was recorded in the congressional record.
Oh.
Just amazing. And this is a woman who got her master's degree when she was her bachelor's degree when she was 43 after she raised her kids.
Wow.
And went on to get her master's. But what Stephen says about her also is that, they can't be closer than about 10 feet from each other. They have to wear a mask. He has not heard her voice in 4 years. And the fact that they can't hold hands or hug or cuddle, which was their way of communicating when she lost her ability to speak, has just been heartbreaking for him. So the blue flower this year is, in honor of Betty.
In honor of her.
Yes.
Oh, thank you
Very
for
touching.
Sharing those stories.
That's right. And then the white flower, which you might have seen in the center of the quilt, represents what we hope in the not too distant future to be the first survivor of Alzheimer's. And you might want to say more about that, Elizabeth.
Yeah, it's that hope for one day we'll get to that point where, maybe we can stop the disease in its tracks. And so the work of the association is twofold. We're there for people as they're going through it now, but really we're working towards changing that trajectory and making it so there's a disease altering treatment, something that could stop or even prevent us from getting it. Wouldn't that be amazing? I held up my flag. I have my flags here too for everyone who registers in time for the walk. For the Saturday, it's a little late. You won't be able to get them before that, but we'll be walking through neighborhoods carrying the flags. That's because normally you would get a flower. Everyone gets a flower at the walk, but they do not transport well. So we would have loved to send out flowers again to everybody, but they would be destroyed in the mail. So anyway, thank you for sharing that. We have one more walk to talk about, and that is the following weekend. We have Merced. Merced, you guys are really amazing, doing great things in Merced. We're so grateful. Top team, Team Los Banos, and there's been some hot competition there. So Linda is our top individual fundraiser. Linda, let me make sure I can pronounce your last name. Kujawa, congratulations. Thank you for being an amazing champion. And thank you to our committee chair, Denise Glassett. We love getting to work with amazing people, and we're so grateful to Denise and the entire committee. So yay, Merced, October 3rd, still time for any of these walks. And actually, if you missed it and you want to do another walk, San Francisco is November 7th. Silicon Valley is coming up October 17th. You can walk in any neighborhood, so you can sign up for any walk you want. So, all right, I realize we're taking a lot of time here today, but we're going to wind things up. I just wanted to say a little bit about our work. As you can read on the slide, our vision is a world without Alzheimer's and all other dementia. And what does that mean? Well, there are different types of dementia. Last time we talked about Lewy body dementia. This time I wanted to talk about vascular dementia. It's also referred to sometimes as multi-infarct dementia, and it's caused by small strokes that occur over time. And you may have heard of something called a TIA. A TIA is a transient ischemic attack or event, and it's a small stroke. And oftentimes they clear up. That's transient, means temporary, so they get better. But if you have enough TIAs, they stop being temporary and they start having permanent effects. And that causes an infarct. And that's why it was called multi-infarct dementia previously, where people would have lots of little strokes that would add up over time. Vascular dementia there's some different types, but generally it's where there's an interruption in blood flow to part of the brain that doesn't fully heal. And over time it adds up. And depending on where the stroke has happened, the symptoms will be different. So generally, and Francie does this, I know, in support groups, when we have folks come to support groups and they're dealing with vascular dementia, often it looks very much like Alzheimer's. The variations can be, though, someone's memory might actually be better with vascular dementia, depending on where the strokes have occurred. But the approach is the same, and actually the drugs for Alzheimer's are often used for people with vascular dementia. I think the one real difference is that what they try to do is prevent future strokes. So things like high blood pressure, they may even be on blood thinners. It depends on what the cause is, but cardiac care and cardiovascular health are really important when it comes to reducing the likelihood of having more strokes. Francie, is there anything you would add to that?
Well, I think that, often people say, well, what difference does it make getting a diagnosis? And I think, as you point out, if you know what type of dementia someone has, it's easier, to direct care, to get the proper medications, to monitor certain, functions and so forth. So I think that even though families, are dealing with very similar situations, and they all help each other, in a group, particularly supporting each other, that acknowledging that there are so many causes of dementia these days with a lot of crossover is very valuable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm about to get a delivery, which means my dog is going to start barking. Okay, so let's see if we can get through this without the dog barking. This is Hispanic Heritage Month. We are celebrating all the wonderful diversity in the Hispanic and Latino communities, and we have a number of programs coming up. We have multiple programs, conversations with caregivers in Spanish. We have multiple sessions, so check that out on our website. And we also have Facebook Live next week in Spanish. So I hope you will take advantage. We have lots of great resources in Spanish on our website as well. And we can take calls in Spanish too. So please reach out and let us know how we can help. We also have some other educational events coming up. The next one that I really want to highlight is the Women and Alzheimer's event, a virtual conversation with one of the leading experts in the country on reducing your risk of getting Alzheimer's, Dr. Laura Baker. She's awesome, she's dynamic, and you will not be sorry if you go. I think she is one of my favorite presenters, period. So she's just great. It's open to men and women, but we will be talking a lot about women, and it's from 9 to 10 a.m. You have to register in order to be able to get in, but check that out. And then we have two other programs, Creating Dementia-Friendly Churches and The Way to Brain Health, both in English and Cantonese. So check those out too. And our next session in English will be on the 8th of October at 1:30. And check us out. We're so glad you joined us. We hope to see you in a neighborhood waving flags to support the walk in your neighborhood. Thank you, Francie, for joining me today. So appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your month and take good care.
Bye.